Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And today we're in Microsoft Flight Simulator, checking out the Mini-500. And this is a new chopper that I recently purchased after having flown some of the free helicopters within the game. And they were a lot of fun. I'm finding myself enjoying helicopters a little bit more than I thought I would. The last time I flew a chopper in any type of sim, probably DCS Huey, and before that, Jane's Longbow 2, which I actually still have a box copy of that. Those were the days. But we're in Alaska, gonna check out some wildlife. I believe there's some grizzly bears out there and some seagulls. I don't know how interesting that's gonna be, but that's what I saw on the map, so that's what we're gonna do. And so let's begin the startup procedure here, which I think on this one is fairly simple. Even for somebody like me with a fairly bad memory when it comes to these things. And turn on these lights. And I think that's about it. Re-enable that. Swing out our tablet here. I've already got the route planned from the main menu. But yeah, this thing, the Mini-500. It's kind of like the baby version of the chopper from Magnum PI. Which I believe was 500D or the D500 or something like that. I think there's an MD500 in the game that another developer has created, which is a newer version of that, of the Magnum chopper from the 90s. I'd like to get that at some point too. I think that one's around $32. This one is $14.99. And so far it's been a lot of fun, but I am still trying to get used to helicopters in general. We're using the Warthog HOTAS, so throttle, stick, and rudder pedals, also by Throatmaster, the TPM, and Track IR5, obviously. So I've had to kind of bind things. I've had to reverse my throttle to sort of emulate a collective, and I've added some trim functionality to the stick to help out with the cyclic control. Some of the assists, the default game assists, are on in terms of managing those things, at least until I can get more familiar with helicopters. I find that when you don't have a dedicated chopper control system, they can be a little challenging. I know helicopters are newer to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I don't know how great they are in comparison to something like DCS. I've heard some complaints. Some people aren't necessarily thrilled with some aspects of implementation, but I don't know. I'm no expert. I've been having fun with them regardless. So we'll just kind of take off, not worry about any fancy taxiing out or anything, I guess. We'll just follow the path and enjoy the scenery. This thing climbs pretty quickly because it's just so light. I mean, look, we're almost 1,500 feet. I have been trying to play around with the trim a bit so that I don't really have to worry too much about fighting the cyclic. I might want to also, let's see if I can kind of trim this thing out in one thing I didn't do was plug in the headphones here. Actually, it seems like they were already activated, but now they're actually plugged in. But you can hear the difference. This thing can get pretty loud, so. It's also got a bit of a high-pitched kind of tinnitus, whiny sound that I'm not a huge fan of, but maybe it's real. I think the top speed on this thing is about 100, well, cruising speed, I guess you could say 100 knots. Looks like we're at about 92 right now, so it's one of those things where the sense of scale is so vast in this game that it's easy to forget that you're moving faster than you think you are. Yeah, because we're doing about 104 right now. It's been so long since I've last played this, which I believe was around launch. I tend to forget how gorgeous the game is. Streamed it a little bit yesterday on Twitch, and I was talking about how therapeutic a civilian flight simulator can be. Somewhat relaxing. ASMR, if you will. Easy to fall asleep listening to the sound of an engine. I was doing a bush trip in a Cessna, and it was, I didn't really read the description. It turned out that it was supposed to be like a 7-hour flight, like real 7 hours. And I thought it was just some quick mission, and I was flying for quite a while before realizing it and just thinking like, okay, well, I'm not going to make it because I was spending so much time looking at the scenery that I wasn't really paying too much attention to fuel management and whatnot. I am using live time and weather, so it's morning in Alaska here. But yeah, I spent a lot of time playing DCS. Got quite familiar with the F-16 Viper. Spent a lot of time in the Harrier as well. Those are probably two of my favorite modules of all time in that game, sim. And I know they recently added the Apache, so I've considered maybe taking a look at that at some point. But the issue with DCS is if you stop playing, or at least in my case, if I stop playing it for too long, then I tend to forget everything. And flying is easy. You know, you can eventually relearn the startup procedures. Takeoff, landing, general flight, maneuvers and whatnot. But it's the systems. It's remembering how to use the weapons and manage targets and, you know, swapping between bombs and missiles and whatnot. I suppose if I sat back in the cockpit, things would come back to me over time. The lighting in this game is something else. Especially when you're watching the sun go up. love mountains. Trim this thing out a little bit more. Still just kind of getting used to... Ideally, if you've trimmed this thing properly, you don't really even have to have your hand on the stick. Cyclic. Always try to remember the different names for things. Cyclic, collective. And I don't think they're called rudder pedals. They're called something else, but I can't remember what they're called in a helicopter. I'm sure somebody will tell me. I don't want to trigger a helicopter enthusiast. Man, look at it. It's just absolutely stunning. Breathtaking. No, you're breathtaking. Now, I think I have some of the point of interest UI elements enabled, so we should eventually come upon our wildlife objectives. There's a POI up ahead. I'm not sure what that is. I think some of them only draw in once you're within a certain distance. Another POI over there. But right now I'm just trying to follow our route here. McNeil Cove. Seagulls. Admittedly, I'm not a huge fan. Where I grew up, there were or are plenty of seagulls, and I remember when I was a little kid, my mom took me to the beach, and we got McDonald's, and I had a cheeseburger. Kid you not. Seagulls. Burger in my hand. Those frackers, they swooped in, took the cheeseburger right out of my hand. Ever since then, I've hated seagulls. So, if I accidentally fly through a couple of them, I don't know if I'll shed any tears. It's just a game. It's not real. They've always got their eyes on food. They'll eat anything. Pretty sure they'll steal small children if you're not careful. Alright, so yeah, there's our icon that represents wildlife. I'm more interested in the grizzly bear location. But I figured since this was on the way, we'd check it out and see if there's anything interesting here. Just maybe the scenery in general, the cove itself is probably going to be more interesting. I don't know. If it's just saying there. Are they flying around or in the water or what? I'm not sure if that icon indicates a radius or if they're exactly on the icon. See if I can bring us into a hover here. I'll reset my trim. Gotta be careful because the water can play tricks on our eyes. I don't see anything. I mean, maybe they're on the water, but admittedly it's just kind of difficult to tell. Alright, you know what? I'm calling it on those. We're gonna go find the grizzly bears instead. If anything, we're scoping out some beautiful scenery, so. No loss. They announced Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which at first I thought it was DLC. But turns out it's going to be a standalone title. And it seems they're adding a lot of mission or career options. I don't really want to say career, but I know they're adding missions, so you'll be able to do things like rescue operations, transport, cargo, passenger, crop dusting. But there's a video, I'll have a link in the description below, there's a video of them doing various missions. They've got like a helicopter with like a Coast Guard guy or something rescuing an injured hiker. Them doing like transport, cargo drop-offs, medical transport, things like that. It seems kind of cool. I wonder if it'll be career-based. That'd be neat. If if you could start out, and I don't know. I really don't know how it would work. I always thought it would be neat to have something where maybe you start out with a basic plane, like a, you know, just like a Cessna, small Cessna plane, and you have to work your way up and earn money to buy bigger planes and expand your business. And it may be something that you could do cooperatively with friends. That'd be a lot of fun. And I know there's certain websites that try to emulate that. Going kind of slow here. Let's have a little bit of fun with this thing while we talk. But yeah, I seem to recall there was a website that you could sign up for, and it would link into the game somehow, and you could sort of pretend or role play that you're doing transport missions. And then it would update on the website. I forget what they're called, but yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. We'll see. I'm not sure when it's supposed to release, but supposedly it's this year. It's supposed to have a lot of visual enhancements and various other features. The good news is that if you've bought anything within this Microsoft Flight Sim from the in-game marketplace, it will carry over, so you're not going to lose anything. This thing, though, you can definitely toss this thing around, so I'm going to grab some sky here and... Definitely perfect for stunts if you're looking for it. Nice if you have a area of the world to kind of fly through things. I was doing some flying through some buildings in LA the other day, because there's a lot of helicopter, like, landing pads out there, and so I was practicing my precision landing. My landings are still a bit rough in this one. I find this one to be a little bit more challenging to land than the free chopper that comes with the game. The friend, I can't, what? Cabri G2 or something? I can't remember what it's called. It's another small chopper. I don't know if it's heavier than this one. Well, I think that one's a two-seater. So it might be just a little heavier, which means it doesn't get tossed around as much. Let's see here. Okay, we should be coming up on the grizzly bears. Perhaps not necessarily that exciting of a thing to do in this game, but for the most part it's just a reason to fly around and check out the scenery. I think the scenery is the selling point. But I've not really checked out the wildlife before, so I thought I would give it a shot. The seagulls were obviously a letdown. So, we'll see how the grizzlies do. crossing a lot of water here. Supposedly, Flight Sim 2024 is going to have far more visual enhancements, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. Especially in regard to the environments. There's some screenshots, and again, there's a trailer that showcases a lot more detail on the ground. Nicer looking trees and terrain, tessellation and whatnot. Because right now, I mean, you know, again, this game is absolutely gorgeous. It's just when you get very close to the ground, that's when you lose a lot of that detail, because much of it is based on like Bing map data, I believe. And obviously there's DLC and world updates for certain areas to beautify landmarks. Like, you know, if you want to go check out the pyramids in Egypt, you know, the pyramids will be in a higher quality than perhaps just some random area of the world. Like, if I think anybody that has this game has probably made an attempt at flying over their neighborhood or wherever they live to just see if they can spot their house. And obviously, if you do that, it's probably just some generic map data that doesn't really look all that great. I was flying around Toronto, Canada yesterday, and I had downloaded one of the Canada World updates, but I guess they didn't really update too much of that city, which was unfortunate. Because you go there, and you go around where the CN Tower is, and you know, the tower looks okay-ish, but it's not great. And but what's worse is the buildings that surround the tower. They look post-apocalyptic. They look abandoned and burnt out and everything, just because I guess the way the game renders map data, it just doesn't have enough detail. But obviously that's a performance concern. You know, you can't have them look immaculate, because the game then has to load all of that information, all that texture and model quality that probably just would chug the game a bit. But you can obviously opt to download optional updates to certain locations that have higher detail and quality. It's just there's not always an update for every little area in the world. But again, that's not a diss. This game is achieving something that no other flight sim has in the past. All right. Grizzly bears. Lose some of this altitude. Not hard to do in this thing. Where'd that icon go? Thought it was over here. Don't tell me they disappeared. Maybe they're hibernating now. Reminds me of Jurassic Park. Now, you do plan to have dinosaurs on the dinosaur tour. could have swore the... Didn't I see the icon over here? Let's go in a little closer, maybe. Oh, wait. I think we got him. I wonder if we'll scare them away. That's kind of cool. They have no fear. Yeah, I don't think they react to me. Probably for the best. Alright. It's been fun, Bears. But I'm running low on fuel. Speaking of Jurassic Park, that actually would be pretty cool if there was like a Jurassic Park DLC. They could utilize Hawaii like they did in the movie. Add some dinosaurs. They've added, they've added other movie elements, like there's the ornithopter from Dune, which is actually very impressive. I'm surprised at how well they've modeled it. There's the Pelican from Halo, that Pelican dropship. So, I mean, they're not against adding movie or video game franchises into the mix. But I guess it might just come down to getting the rights to certain things. Which, as far as Jurassic Park's concerned, I know Frontier has I don't know if Frontier has exclusive rights to Jurassic Park. Because they made that game Jurassic World Evolution, the park builder game. Now, I don't know if there's a helipad at this airfield, but I'll just touch down wherever. I haven't really been doing any official, like, ATC communication or anything in this game. I know there's people that like to roleplay that kind of thing and practice as if it was real. And, you know, some people use this for training. So I could see that being a good idea. It's funny, you play this game and sometimes you're in a plane and you're thinking like, man, could I fly a real plane? You know, like, and it's like, well, there's a lot of differences. You know, you don't feel the plane, you're not feeling the turbulence as much, and you're not feeling the weight of the plane and the stresses of placed upon the aircraft by the elements, and it's a whole different animal. There's a lot more procedures and protocols. Lives are on the line, so it's, you know, there's just more inherent stress to the situation. But, you know, if anything, the simulators give you a basic idea, like you understand some fundamentals. Like, I'm not saying I could fly a real plane, but I would have, you know, some sort of at least understanding. You've seen those scenarios where somebody goes up in a plane and the pilot passes out, or that, you know, I remember there was one situation where somebody's pilot died, and I think the passenger had very little bit of flight experience, and he had to get on the radio and somebody had to talk him through everything, and he had to land the plane, and I think his family was in the back, and it was like, that's a situation that makes or breaks you. It's one thing to know how to fly the plane or to attempt to, but then can you just get through the stress of the situation? But having a little bit of knowledge, like, okay, I understand angles of attack and how reading the instruments and understanding what your altitude is, how much fuel you have. Alright, probably just gonna bring it down anywhere I can. Or maybe one of the parking lots. Oh, there's another helicopter over there. Try to get it into the parking lot next to the other one. The fuel truck's rolling out. Don't get too close. Where are you going, fuel truck? Where are you going, bro? Little side strafing here. Good enough for government work, I guess. Again, my precision landing skills are not necessarily amazing, but hey, I'll take what I can get. Anyways, 5% fuel. Not a bad little trip there. Probably should have had my landing lights, oh well. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for me today. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me. Always a pleasure. If you've enjoyed this, please go ahead and leave a like or a comment. What are you flying? Are you enjoying this game? Do you have a particular aircraft that you enjoy flying around? Are you looking forward to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 and or any other flight sims for that matter? But with that said, again, thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.